when I got to US, I always knew that I cared. I wasn't sure which angle I was going to go, but I loved nursing more than medicine. I want to be able to have my own clinic. I want to be able to practice mental health. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Dr. Princess FUMI Hancock. I'm an African princess living in diaspora. I'm also known as your Princess of Suburbia. I'm a board certified mental health psychiatric doctor of nurse practice. And of course, I just relocated to Arizona from Nashville, Tennessee. People know me out here as the owner of Pool of Bethesda psychiatric mental health clinics. Of course, I'm also a best-selling author and an award-winning master storyteller. So welcome aboard this ship called Life Rehab Television. Thank you so much for joining us again. This is where we talk about health and wealth. Because how many of you know that our wealth is in our health and vice versa? So today I have some exciting people, exciting people with me today. And you all know how I roll here. I always allow people to toot their own horn. I don't want to birch any name. I don't want to mess anything up. So I always allow people to just toot their own horn here. Why are we here today? A lot of times people, many of you know that we're dealing with a pandemic. We're dealing with a lot of things out there these days. We have situations where families are afraid, they don't know what to do with themselves. We have situations where we have suicide rate is going up. We have situations where those who did not have post PTSD now have developed PTSD because by simply just watching the TV. And of course, we have so many things. And because of that, I said, well, you know what? Everybody is talking about coronavirus. Why not take it from another point of view? And the point of view of mental health, mental wellness. Because frankly, when we're done with the pandemic, there's yet another pandemic that is brewing underneath that. And that's why today we want to talk about our own personal journey. We want to talk about our own personal experiences, not just with coronavirus, but just in crisis. How do you avert crisis? Can you avert crisis? How do you live and thrive in spite of crisis? And so today we want to borrow from something. We want to borrow from experiences of the past. How many of you know that if we do not learn from experiences of the past, we're likely and subject to make the same error? And so because of that, we want to talk a little bit about in the 1918, when we had yet another pandemic, right? Back then they call it the Hispanic flu influenza pandemic. And so we want to borrow a little bit from them too. But before we go into that, let me just allow my wonderful, wonderful, terrific, uh, I'll call them co-hosts, frankly, because they all have a power. They stand behind their own power in their own area of influences. And so because of that, rather than say guest today, I'm saying my co-host because this is a town hall. This is a storyteller town hall where we come together with our areas of expertise and just share a little bit of knowledge. So I'm going to start with Miss Florida Santana Johannes. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
How are you, Princess? Thank you so much for having me. Wow, I've got some heavy hitters here. Everybody's here is like a power hitter, home run hitters. This is exciting. This is exciting. About myself, I'm a real estate developer and investor. Everything that I do in business, I have several businesses, is real estate related. So I'm excited to have this conversation because the past leaves crumbs of clues as to how we can what lessons we can learn from the past, what lessons we can learn right now, and how we can move forward, and how we cope with it. And I think that's part of the bigger issue from a mental and emotional perspective is our inability to have learned from the past so we can learn how to cope moving forward. But today you're going to address that. So I'm excited to be part of this conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And then, of course, I want to go to our wonderful, wonderful Miss Wendy L. Alexander.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Prentice Fumi, for having me. I'm excited to be here today. I am a cross-cultural trainer, international speaker, best-selling author. Just recently moved back to the U.S. From Dubai. So I'm so excited to actually be home and to be with you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, 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 awesome. And so, of course, I'm going to move from Miss Wendy L. Alexander and I'm going to talk to Erica T. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erica T. Johnson. Thank you so much, Dr. Princess Fumi, for bringing us all together for this very important and pivotal conversation on this evening. I am a mechanical engineer working in the oil and gas industry for the past 19 years for a Fortune 2 company. I think a lot of you may know ExxonMobil. But I'm also an award-winning problem solver, disrupting negative patterns of thinking for high-achieving women professionals so that they thrive and they lead from a place of wholeness as well as freedom. And I truly believe that the problem that you refuse to confront is often the problem that you will absolutely never solve. And so I haven't met a problem yet where I haven't grown from it. So again, thank you for this opportunity on this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you. We so appreciate you. Now we're going to go to Dr. Letitia Ballard.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Letitia Ballard. I am a clinical psychologist. I practice here in Green Valley, Arizona. I also am the founder and president of a nonprofit organization, Shifa Life Incorporated. I'm in the healing and deliverance business. God bless you.
Awesome. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so, of course, I want to go to Dr. Georgina Rutzler.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Rutzler, and I'm the owner and CEO of Mindful Choice Institute, also in Green Valley. I work for a lot of different companies as well. I practice psychiatry as a nurse practitioner, and I treat patients across the lifespan. And this is going to be a very, very good conversation. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we have all these women, and you're all probably wondering, why in the world will he be with us, right? So unlike Anderson to introduce himself.
You're gonna get me in trouble up here, Dr. Princess Fumi. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call with you guys, or you ladies, as I should say. I must say, Ms. Johnson, I definitely echo the sentiment about approaching problems. That strung a chord with me. I'm an ICU nurse. I've been in critical care. Before the ICU, I was in the emergency room, where I've been about 3 years and 4 years, respectively. So I'm kind of seeing patients on the front lines of things. And on the side, I know Dr. Princess Fumi through the Johnson & Johnson Nurse Innovation Fellowship. Both honored to be a part of this first cohort, I'm sure. And I've been working on a few side projects lately in the outbreak of this pandemic, including one, nursehack.com, where I'm trying to collect and share all of the best bedside tips and tricks that help nurses in their practice improve safety or efficacy. So I've been working on that as a little project even since we last spoke, but it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I tell you, we have a lot to talk about tonight, but of course, we know we're not going to finish the whole thing tonight. But this is one thing that we want to do. We just want to give you something to begin to think about as we begin to maneuver our way around all the pandemic and all the things that is going on in our society today. So let's start with this. I want to start with this before we go into 1918 and start talking about that. I want to start with Miss Wendy L. Alexander. You happen to be somebody that has lived inside and outside of the country. You've lived in the Western world, you've lived in Middle East and all that. Talk to us about what is pandemic? What does it mean to have a pandemic? What does it mean to have a crisis? What does it mean? You know, I want you to look at it from a cultural perspective because you're a cultural consultant. Mm-hmm. What does it mean? What would, if I were in Dubai, hearing all of this, what does it mean? And what does it mean here?
Honestly, when it first happened, I felt like I was torn. Like I wanted to be there to help. And the reason why is because during this time, if you all know about Ramadan, right, which is their holy event that they actually have for 30 days, they pray, they fast, they every day they go to the mosque. They weren't allowed to do that during this pandemic. You know, that was a big change, you know, not being able to go to the mosque and pray, as well as the way that we, you know, I say we greet each other is that, you know, we shake hands, you know, we kiss on the cheeks, you know, so all of that had to come to a stop. And if you think about it, this is something that you do every single day. And so for them that changed. And if you know anything about the Muslim culture is that they are very consistent. Okay. They are very consistent, you know, every day, pray 5 times a day. They're going to the mosque. They're with their families, you know, on Fridays. Even for myself, I was always invited to come, you know, to their home to be able to eat and just to fellowship together. And so on top of that, that changed. And so what they end up doing is that they had to be separated. They had to learn how, you know, not how to pray at home, you know, how to pray at home, not to go to the mosque. With family, some of the families they did come together because they're not used to being apart. It wasn't like where, you know, I'm in my home and I'm calling my grandmother on FaceTime, be like, okay, well, this is what we had to deal with, versus, you know, they're in Dubai, they're like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to still be with our family, you know, and of course the houses are humongous. So, I mean, technically, you know, you know, you can have about 6 or 7 families in there and, you know, really you are social distancing, right? But just together. Okay. So they were doing that. But the biggest thing was definitely the religion, as far as Ramadan, not being able to go to the mosque was a huge shift and change for them. It's not only physically, but mentally, you know, as well. And so I talked to some of them over there, and that was their biggest struggle is when I said, what are you struggling with? And they said, not being able to go to the mosque and pray.
Wow.
That was their biggest struggle.
Wow. Oh my goodness. You know, when you just started talking now, I almost forgot that I spent a year in Saudi Arabia. I almost forgot
Like,
that.
you did so
Yeah,
great.
I
Did
know,
you
right?
do?
Until you started talking about it, then I remembered, my goodness. I remember being in Saudi Arabia, and almost every 2 hours, Allah Akbar, Allah. And, I just remember that you just saying it now just helped me to remember. And a lot of times we get so carried away with what's going on in our own backyard that we don't even,
Mm-hmm.
think about how it's impacting other people, different
Mm-hmm.
parts of the world. So thank you for sharing that. So, Eric, I want you to think about this. How is this impacting you personally, your family, you? How is all of this crisis impacting you personally?
Well, we've been doing things a little bit differently at work. Everything's a little bit heightened. There's a higher exposure risk. There's a higher amount of the unknown. So we will have patients come up and we don't know if they've been tested, but we haven't gotten the result yet. So we have to assume that every patient where we don't know it's a negative has the virus and is contagious. And even some of the negatives, we think maybe it was a false negative. And so we still have to kind of make that call. Personally, since I started having COVID positive patients as my patients in the ICU, my wife, who is pregnant, we were 36
Whoa.
weeks yesterday. She actually, we thought it was best. She went about 20 minutes away, lived with her parents for about a month and a half, because that is not the kind of work that I want to take home and put her or the baby at risk. So that was definitely a struggle. I mean, I had, I guess, fortunately had enough things to do at home, and like I mentioned before, these side projects I've been working on. But for her to leave her home, leave her husband, she brought the dog, which was good, and she was with her parents who were familiar to her and love her dearly. But she's a dental hygienist, and they closed down, and so she didn't have any part of her normal, and it was really starting to get to her. I can say that this past Monday, she was finally able to come home because I have some amazing coworkers who were willing to pick up my shifts so that I don't have to be there again for another few weeks until the baby comes. Wow. So I did a little isolation, and she was able to come home. And so that was a huge answered prayer, huge blessing. And we're very grateful to those folks. But I mean, I think it was at least 6 weeks. It's hard to even keep track that she was at her parents. So, and then the more obvious, wearing a mask, going to the grocery store, using the hand sanitizer all the time. I'm a very social person. I love being around people, even people I don't know yet. They're just people that I'm going to know soon. I'm really big in greetings and give hugs and all that stuff. And it was very, very weird to have to not do like my normal me. But grand scheme, the important thing is that mom's home, and we're going to get to be together for the rest of these few weeks here. But it's still a lot on our minds, Wayne, bringing a baby into this whole scenario in just a short little while here.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, congratulations. Let's start with that. Congratulations on that. You kind of piqued my interest in what you were saying about working on, with patients that have the virus. A lot of times people, we look from afar, and we're not, when you're looking from a distance, you're not necessarily connecting so that decisions that are being made, right, you're not necessarily involved in it. But when you are firsthand, can you share with us a firsthand experience that literally you say, okay, this touched my heart, this changed something? Because in our group, in the J&J group, I often see you when you're kind of excited saying, oh, somebody beat the virus and now you're discharging the person. It always warms my heart when I read your stories about that, because there are other groups that I have that literally what I hear every day is one nurse that passed. So tell us one experience that you say, whoa, this experience during this crisis has literally changed my life. Eric, tell us one.
Sure. Yeah. There's so much negativity that everywhere you look, you can't help but see it. So I like those stories you'd mentioned. I try to find the positives, because that's what's going to help people get through everything better. But a typical respiratory failure case that requires intubation means that we put a tube through somebody's mouth and it goes into the trachea or the windpipe, and then we hook them to a mechanical ventilator. We almost always give a sedating agent to put the patient to sleep, and a pain reliever, an analgesic, because it's very uncomfortable. In a normal circumstance, the longest time that a patient is allowed to stay on that breathing tube through their mouth is 14 days. At that time, you start to have deterioration of the windpipe that puts them at risk, higher risk for infection, and the trachea itself can be worn away. So a long-term episode with this tracheal tube in place is a high risk to their health. Well, we had at least 2 patients that were requiring ventilatory support for beyond that 14-day mark. One of them was on a ventilator, I think it was 21 days. And then thankfully, she had recovered well enough to be able to take that off and move to non-invasive respiratory support. But one of the other patients wound up actually needing a percutaneous tracheotomy, where they cut a hole here and place a tube from the neck into the lungs rather than through the mouth, because it allows for that tissue to be more healthy and not to deteriorate. And that patient remained on support on and off. It was 28 days, I think, by the time that I last saw him there, and he was still kind of on and off again on the ventilator. So it's like, I try to celebrate the wins of coming off, but even in that case, like, his win was kind of a partial win. And it's amazing just to see how sick these patients have been. And we were lucky enough to not be overwhelmed to capacity like New York and Massachusetts and a lot of others in Washington on the Western coast, that we could literally give these folks at that much time to recover. And it's been amazing just to hear them call their family afterward, after we got the tube out, and to see them. We've been using tablets to FaceTime to family after they're awake and off the sedation, and they can whisper their voice but still communicate and wave, and it really has been amazing.
Wow. Thank you so much for, the reason why I wanted you to share that was, that's kind of like a face-to-face kind of like brush with actual, what it looks like to be taking care of someone that has the virus. So I want to talk about parenthood. Erica T. Johnson, I want you to talk to us about the role of parents in getting our children to understand what this is, because frankly, being in mental health, I've never been this busy in my life. And that's the truth. It's just like, oh my God, can I just breathe? Because you have children, you have teenagers, you have adults, you have mothers and, fathers, everybody coming, and all of them are all saying the same thing: too much anxiety. So let's take a crack at parenthood and children. What are the telltale signs? Because you have kids. What are the telltale signs? Not even about coronavirus, just about crisis in general, right? What are the telltale signs that we should be looking for if we're parents, brothers, sisters? What are the telltale signs?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a really good question. For my family and I, here recently, we've been going through a really big transition in our family where we went from having, dad in the home to now it's just being mom and the kids. And so that has been a huge transition for myself, but as well as my children. And then you kind of compound that as well with what's happening with COVID and just the transitioning that, we all have to go through. And so I'm very particular to just kind of be observant of kind of what's going on with the children. And so, you know, you want to definitely look for, you know, are they spending too much time, you know, in their rooms? Are they not wanting to engage and socialize with others in the family? Are they all of a sudden extremely sad? Are constantly sad? I have a little one who's extremely bubbly all of the time, Caleb. You know, he's one of the, you know, one of the most happiest kids, you know, in the world. So one of the things that, you know, I would, you know, just kind of pay attention for him, because his personality is always upbeat, he's very loving, he's very caring, is really, you know, where do I see a shift in that? So is he all of a sudden sad? Is he all of a sudden angry? Does he not want to be around, you know, anyone in the family? And so you just got to know your child and just be mindful of when things start to shift in their natural patterns and their natural behaviors, such that you can intervene, such that you can ask the questions, such that you can be that parent that goes to them and really just, you know, let them know that you're there to support them, and you're there to also help them through whatever the challenge or the struggle may be. And so that's what I can, you know, that's the advice that I can give to, you know, to any parent that, you know, has children, and you're trying to, you know, make sure that you're aware of what's going on with them. You know, it's kind of interesting. I had a phone call today from a girlfriend from Atlanta, and she was just talking about one of her nieces who she actually has the privilege of caring for. She lives with her full time, and she was saying that, you know, in their school system in Atlanta, you know, the children were given laptops to go home with during COVID, you know, to do their schoolwork. And which means that anytime they get on the system, it, you know, it monitors, the school is monitoring, the administration is monitoring what's actually happening, and where the children, their activity on the computer, right, where they're actually going. And she ended up getting a phone call from a counselor basically saying, you know, your child has been Googling depression. And we, you know, we want to check in to make sure, you know, that she's actually, you know, that she's actually doing okay. And she also mentioned, you know, that, you know, the child was going into the room and she was binge eating, which was totally outside of her character. And so as parents, it's important for us to engage our children, to know what their natural patterns are, and to know when things shift, so that we can indeed intervene and be able to support them and get them the help and the assistance that they need.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for, wow. Okay. So today I had a patient come in with the mother, and it was interesting because when I started asking questions, the kid first started out by saying, I'm not depressed. He said, I'm not depressed. And the mom is like, oh, he's the bubbly one. He's the one that, you know, is always laughing, smiling, joking, whatever. And then all of a sudden he turns around and says, I asked another question. He says, I hate myself. I hate myself. And the mom sits there and says, no, you don't. He said, no, mom, I'm telling you, I hate myself. The mom turns around and says, no, you don't. You're always laughing. You're always smiling. And I'm sitting there saying, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Here you have the mother saying that he's not, and he's saying, listen to me, I am. So in this kind of situation where you have parents who clearly have been through something, but perhaps they're not ready to fess up, but yet their children are going through it. Dr. Ballard, help us out. What should we do in this kind of situation? If there's a mother right here now watching, listening, knows that this kid needs help, but because of culture or because of something else, that person is in denial. Help us out. What should we do?
Well, I think we have to listen, you know, and with everything that's going on in society right now, and, you know, with suicide rates, with self-mutilation behaviors, and everything that we're seeing, increased anxiety and depression in our young people, you have to listen. You have to wake up. This is not the time to, you know, be in denial, to put the blankets over our heads. You know, young people are seriously hurting, you know. And during this COVID time, we've had just a lot of people experiencing. Everybody's experiencing something they've never experienced before. But for some people, this is their senior year in high school. They're missing out on so much. They're grieving. All of these activities, the trips, the all of the things that they've planned, prom, just these last moments with their friends, they're missing out on these things. And so we need to listen. We need to listen.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So, Dr. Rosler, um, wow. Can you just give us an example of what is out there right now because of the coronavirus right now? What are you seeing in your practice?
Sure. I see a lot of anxiety, a lot of increased depression. People are being triggered, more substance abuse. People are leaning to more alcohol, more drugs, committing suicide. A lot of things are going on. Unemployment is triggering a lot of depression. People aren't able to eat. The stimulus, it's just not enough. And some places they want to keep, the businesses closed, other places are opening up. So depending on where people are living, I practice mostly telemedicine. And so I practice in a wide variety of places: New Mexico, Arizona. And so it's different in Arizona, where New Mexico, with like Navajo Nation, for example, they're shut down completely. They're quarantined. They have curfews. It's
Wow.
and people are struggling. People are really struggling, just like you. I am very busy. I thought I was busy before. I'm busier now. It's very difficult to treat so many patients.
Yeah.
But luckily, we're able to actually connect better, not just through telemedicine. We're able to talk on the phone. Insurance companies have allowed that for a short period of time, so it's good to be in touch with people. But I'm seeing people a lot more often. The anxiety is very, very high. A lot of substance abuse, and getting people to therapists is very difficult. It was difficult before. Is even more so now. Not everybody's set up for telemedicine,
So,
and luckily I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm kind of ahead of the curve. But not everybody is set up, so a lot of places have shut down. Therapists aren't seeing people, and so it's creating a huge, huge burden on the mental health population. And I treat children as well as adults. And so I see a lot of kids struggling with boredom, being at home. Families aren't used to being so confined all the time. It makes it very difficult to adjust. Um, just to always being in the house, not having activities. So I think there's a lot of resources out there that we could use to help patients when they're at home, when they're struggling with, inability to just be able to be entertained, besides like Netflix. But I encourage people to exercise and to try to stay busy as much as they can, and just take care of projects in the home, and just stay positive, because our world has changed very quickly, and it's not going to go back to where it was, not for a while. And so we need to adjust, and so that transition is very difficult for people.
wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Um, Florida, Miss Florida Santana, Johanna Satanas. Um, I want us to talk about America and the global world where business is concerned. I want to talk about business. What is the impact this is having? Because you're a real estate developer. What is the impact that this is having on business? Um, Not just on business, not just on the finance part of it, but also business owners behind the scenes when we're talking about mental wellness. What is this? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What are you hearing?
You know, what people, and I talk to businesses all over, and this has impacted every business. You know, just because it's a large company, Boeing is a great example. Just because it's a large company doesn't mean that this has not impacted them, because it's impacted their cash flow. But you know, just like stepping away from the money for a moment, everybody's business started small, and it's like giving birth to your baby. Okay. And so you've grown this baby, you've nurtured this baby, and suddenly this baby, you have to stop feeding it. Okay. I got to stop growing it. Okay. And so it impacts business owners. I mean, there's just no way that you can separate yourself from the baby that you created. And so a lot of people are having a lot of stresses because they have to change. A lot of people have to change their model in terms of how they do their business. Restaurants may have to change their model. Bars may have to change their models. And so somebody who's aspired to open up their own restaurant all their lives, and they put all their pennies together, and the families came in and put all their monies in, and now they open this restaurant and they're doing well, and then suddenly it's shut down. And even when it comes back, it's not going to come back right away the way they've had it. They're making a decision right now whether we're returning back or we're closed down forever. And so that it's hard. It's very difficult for a lot of business owners. And then those larger businesses, you know, that care about their employees, being able to make a decision between their cash flow and keeping people employed, because they know that their employees have families to feed, mortgages to pay, car notes to pay, and so they care about their employees. So it's very stressful for business owners that, okay, I got to continue to pay them. I got to keep them employed, because they know that the PPP, or they know that the unemployment is not coming through as fast. And so they've got to keep these families going, because they know they stop paying them. How are they going to feed their kids? How are they going to, you know, educate their kids? How are they going to pay for the roof over their head? So it's causing a lot of stresses, whether big or small businesses. Everybody's feeling this. And the longer it takes, the more businesses are going to feel it. Some larger businesses have great balance sheets and great cash flow, may be able to maintain, you know, this without any revenue, and paying their employees health insurance and all that good stuff for 2, 3 months. But if this goes on to 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, you're going to see a lot more businesses saying, "Hey, we got to open." Look at Elon Musk. He's like, "I'm opening." You know, I've got to pay these people. You could take me to jail if you want. Don't touch my employees. I'm opening, because he's got investors that he's got to pay. He's got all these employees he's got to pay. And though he's very wealthy, he's feeling the cash flow crunch as well. So it's not something that only a certain class of people are feeling. Everybody is feeling this.
Wow, my goodness. So, Miss Alexander, what can we learn? Is there something we can learn from others outside of America? What, because I often say this as an African living in diaspora, um, I might have a little bit of a different perspective because I come from Africa. We're used to suffering, right? So we're used to it. So, so for me, it's just like, oh well, next, because we're used to it, right? And then there are some Africans that will look and say, well, Americans they need to toughen up.
Mm-hmm.
They need to toughen up because wait a minute now, come on, they need to toughen up. Miss Alexander, can you talk to that? Because you are in both worlds, right? You go outside of America, you live in America, outside of America. What would you say to somebody who says, look, Americans, you all need to just toughen up. Come on out. What would you say to that person?
If it was someone saying that to me, being the person I am and what I've learned, you know, being overseas in the Middle East, I've learned a lot of patience, and it's not really about being toughen up. It's about just being in the moment and being present. I've learned that, you know, honestly, had I not gone overseas and lived there for the last, 4 years or so, I think going through this pandemic would be totally different. I have more patience. I am, I don't know if you recall, I had said that this was the year of family. And it is definitely, but this is before the pandemic, so I don't know if I kind of manifested some of that, because this is definitely the year of family, right? We have no choice but to be with family, okay? But as far as toughening up, that probably would be me if you would have asked me that question probably about 4 or 5 years ago. But that's not who I am now. I just think I don't believe in. I think you need to just live in your moment. You need to be authentic and be who you are, and you need to be able to feel whatever it is that you feel. So if you feel like you're down and you want to cry, cry. And it, but always, definitely go to that person, but let your feelings and emotions out and express what it is that you're feeling. And also, one of the things that helps me personally is that I actually love to journal. I journal. I journal a lot. I've journaled since I was, let me see, I can tell my age, like 14 years old. Okay. So I have all my journals, y'all, since I was 14 still. Okay. So I could probably take a book. Okay. I can make that a book, right? But toughen up, I really don't. I wouldn't. I disagree. Years ago, yes, but now let your feelings out. You got to share those emotions because you can go to a dark place, okay, if you don't, and be depressed, and it causes anxiety. Just live in the moment and express yourself how you want to express it. And that's one of the things I learned about being overseas, is that one thing about the Middle East is nothing moves fast. Okay, the meeting's supposed to start at 6. It might start at 9 because it's like, why are you rushing? Take your time. We're going to drink tea and we're going to do fellowship. So I've learned patience and understanding. And so this whole pandemic, I honestly haven't felt too stressed by what I've learned over there, to be honest. I've learned to cope and deal and live in the moment and enjoy my family. That's what I've been
That's right.
really doing.
I tell you what, thank you so much for that response. Thinking about this pandemic, several weeks ago, I had a chance to, I sat with one of my J&J, Johnson and Johnson coach, and we were talking about the plans of the things that I'd laid out that I was going to be working on the next 3 years. And by the time we were done, she sent me a video, and the video was for 1918 influenza pandemic. And I tell you, when I started to watch that video, it was almost literally as if we were reliving history. It was so scary because it was like, my goodness, how could history repeat itself so vividly, and yet we didn't catch it? And it was, I mean, even the words that were said, the things that were done, and I began to say, my goodness. And so I want us to, as we kind of segue ourselves, wind down a little bit, I want us to start thinking about 1918, the influenza. And now, what are the lessons that we're learning? Who wants to take that on? What are the lessons that we need to learn? Can somebody give us maybe 1 or 2 lessons? Yes, Eric.
I'll go. I'm fairly familiar with that. I've seen a similar video. And one of the things, this is just going to be me looking for the positives here again. They referenced the bubonic plague wiping out millions and millions of people. And then the Spanish flu, still millions, but significantly less. And now we have the current pandemic, which is a far lesser impact in terms of mortality. And so when I see this sort of trajectory, I generally don't like it. But when it's number of people dying, like, that's a great angle to be headed. I will say that we are in a situation now where the interconnectivity, even outside of medicine, just in communication and the ability to get in touch with other folks, it's put us in a much better place to be able to respond, because yes, it's perhaps inevitable that such a virus might come up, but we can identify, discern and disseminate information so much faster. And we are all much less at risk because of that. And so,
Wow.
you know, that's just the silver lining at best right there.
Well, that's the nurse in you. That's the nurse in you, always looking for how to care, always looking for the positive. Now, who has something outside, completely, totally opposite what Eric just said? Come on, fess up, people. Who wants to say something that's completely opposite what Eric just said? You want to say?
So,
Yeah.
For me, I guess I'm gonna start being a little bit more transparent here for y'all, okay? So for me, it was a step back moment, and just to look at everything and to sit still. For those of you all who know me, I am usually all over the place, all over the place, all over the place. But it really, honestly, has taught me how to really sit still, and to step back and to look at new ways of creating things and to see how I can help and support people more. And also, don't take things for granted, as well. When I came back from Dubai, I actually came back in November. I'm going to share this story with you all. And I actually was very sick. Okay. This is before everyone started talking about COVID. On a plane, came back. I kept telling
everybody she's ground zero. I call her my ground zero patient.
She keeps telling me I'm that. And so I was very sick though, y'all, and I could not breathe. And I kept telling Erica and everybody, I was like, I cannot breathe. And I can't explain to you why I cannot breathe. And they were just like, what are you talking about? So I even went to the emergency room several times, went to the urgent care several times, and I was telling them my symptoms. I was cold, chilling. So I had every last one of the symptoms of COVID. But because I had just left and nobody was really talking about it, right? And I hadn't heard about it, I was like, okay. They was like, well, we don't know what's wrong with you. And I was just like, well, that's just great. So then they just gave me all these medicines, and then I'm like taking all these steroids and stuff. And so I quarantined. It's so crazy because I quarantined myself, y'all, for 2 weeks. Didn't know that I had it, but I just said, okay, well, I'm just gonna stay in my room for 2 weeks because I don't know what I have. I'm tired. I don't want to give it to my family. And then so I actually stayed in my room. And so after all of this broke out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's probably what I had. And then my doctor decides to call me and says, well, we would just like to test your blood just to see some things. And I was like, sure you would, right? And so, yeah, so I actually, it's for me personally, you know, think about what Eric talked about. I probably should have honestly been one of those people on the ventilators. Like, I don't even know how I was breathing. I could not breathe at night. I lost my breath completely. Okay. So I can sympathize with what people are going through on that end, as well as what Erica is talking about with families, as well. So for me, I look at the whole picture and I'm just like, I'm grateful to be here, but also just to be able to share the experiences and just like, you know what? We're going to take a step back. We're going to really, you know, I've been overseas for a long time. I'm going to focus on family. I'm not going to take certain things for granted. If Dr. Princess would say, sit still, sit myself down.
Well, thank you for that transparency. So Leslie, who is watching, says, as Americans, we need to know our power is in the world and be more aware. Then she also said, our current administration removed the plan's ANA people that were in place. So I didn't quite understand that. But we look at everything that is going on right now, and we're not even going political. Even in the same household, we all have different opinions about COVID-19. Even in the same household, we have different opinions. And so the question now is, what are the lessons when we look at 1918 and look at 2020, right? 2 days ago, I did a radio show, and I talked about how December 2019, everybody, literally everybody was talking about 2020 vision. People pulled out their journal, pulled out this map, and they were just drawing all kinds of things and daydreaming all over the place. And now it's 2020 in the middle of crisis. And nobody's talking about the 2020 vision anymore, because right now is like a survival mode and nobody's even talking about 2020 vision anymore. So how do we begin to get our vision in the middle of this crisis? Erica, help us out. And then after Erica, Florida, after Florida, Dr. Ballard, after Dr. Ballard, and anybody else. Let's keep this going.
That's an excellent question. I think fear in itself is an enemy to vision, right? And so vision in the way that I see it is, it's almost something that's inside of you that you have to somehow, draw out. And a lot of times what you must realize is that, a lot of times that vision is given to you in pieces and parts. And it leads to a path, of your destiny eventually. But a lot of times crisis or disruption comes in that will somehow get you distracted. It'll get you off of the path that you're going, what I would love to call your destiny path. And so what you have to do as an individual is go back to what you first saw in your mind's eye, right? For me, it was me going back into, over the past couple of years, the visions that I had been seeing, the dreams and the things that I had, it was actually going back to that time and pulling those things forward into present day to say, okay, this is still a part of me. Okay, how do we shift? You never want to change the vision. You just shift the method in which you approach that vision, the way in which you cause that vision to manifest. It was, okay, what changes need to happen in order to still move forward with that vision? And so I think people need to definitely be aware that fear is an enemy to your vision. If you find yourself stuck, that's when you need to reach back to what you've journaled down, what you had in your mind's eye, what you put in your dream book. What were the recurring dreams that you saw time and time again, and go back to that place and say, okay, now how do I help materialize that in a way that it still comes forward? Like, we never change, the goal, we never change the destination. You're just changing the way that you get to it. And just, again, recognizing that fear is going to be an enemy to that. So you got to do the opposite of what fear is telling you to do.
Wow.
Because I love to say fear is you're fully expecting and you're anticipating resistance. That's what fear is. And so we need to do the opposite of that.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you for that. Florida?
So my favorite word, right?
Yeah.
Which is
pivot.
Pivot. It's that simple. I mean, we have to stay focused, the clear define that vision, the clear define that goal, you have to know how to pivot. And the best example that I can give someone is if you're driving down a highway and suddenly there's a car accident, in front of you, you have to then take a detour. You have to get off that next exit. It doesn't mean that you're not going to reach your destination. You just got to now recalibrate how you're going to get there. That's all you have to do. But if you stay focused on the accident in front of you and you don't move, you don't take action, then you're going to get stuck there. You're never going to reach your destination. So you can't get focused. And that's the only thing that I would say that's very disappointing for me is the news and everything around you is so negative. And it's the same thing every day. It's the same thing. So instead of telling you, hey guys, the way to combat this is to assure yourself, build up your immune system, don't do this, and that. And if you follow those things, then you continue on your path to your vision. Just pivot. That's all it takes. Don't give up on that vision. Just make that adjustment and you will continue to move forward and accomplish that. And if anything, that may have seemed like an accident, the worst thing that could have happened, maybe a blessing in disguise, because that detour you needed to take because you were missing one piece, one clue to get to your destination faster. So to me, it's all about pivoting.
Wow. Awesome. Dr. Ballard.
So one of the things out of this for me was this was an opportunity or a moment to be still, to really assess and take inventory of what's important, and really to reset some things. A lot of time we're busy and we're doing things, but are they profitable? Are they healthy? Are we on track for what we're supposed to be doing, or are we just doing things? And so many people struggle with this whole social distancing because we're just so used to doing things, even though it may have not been the best thing. And so I think this is a time to look at your vision, to re-innovate, to shift some things, to get rid of some things that were not helpful. For me, this was a time like to be grateful. Oh my gosh, look at all these things, just taking a walk without not wearing restraints, mask and gloves, not being fearful or worried. I mean, this was just an opportunity to see, wow, we're really grateful. We have a lot to be grateful for. And so I think that's one of the things that we can take away from this. Also, to be a little bit more compassionate, with others. Just because I may not be concerned about, getting a virus, that doesn't mean that person, in front of me isn't afraid, didn't have a hard time sleeping, didn't have to take medicine just to get out of the house to get things that were necessary. So I think this is an opportunity for us to leave out a little bit better and think about our neighbor. There are some people who lost loved ones who weren't able to be there, with them. There were some people who gave birth, to children, and this was their first, child or grandchild, and they weren't able to have those moments, So I just think this is a time to look beyond ourselves. Maybe something didn't hit hard in your home, but maybe something happened with your neighbor. And so I think this is an opportunity that when we leave here, who is your neighbor? Who's around you? This is an opportunity for us to connect in a different way.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Dr. Rossler. Oh, Eric?
And then I was just going to, just real quickly, I think it's a beautiful irony that in a time where we have to socially distance, it could still be an event that brings us closer.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Thank you. Dr. Rossler?
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate all of your comments. I experienced some losses with the COVID. I had some family members pass from New York City. Wow. And it was real for me, very real. And my life is more or less isolated because I work from home. I'm always home. So that part of my life didn't change, but the outside of my life changed. I lost family members. I have patients that lost family members. So there's been a lot of grieving and a lot of losses. Mm. And I think that for a lot of people, this experience, for me especially, this has been the first time I've ever experienced anything like this. And it brought up a lot of fear. A lot of fear. Is this going to happen to me? Is this going to happen to another family member? And we were helpless. And I've never been in a situation where I felt helpless. Like I couldn't do nothing. I'm just stuck. And so for me, it's been a rude awakening of my own humanity, because I've always felt very accomplished, very comfortable, very confident. I can do everything. So for me personally, it's brought me back to some humility. I don't control this. I don't have the power to fix this. So I can only go with the flow and one day at a time, take care of myself, take care of the immediate needs, take care of the needs of others if they need me. And that's all I can do. I'm available. I make myself available, and I've always been that way, but even more so now with a consciousness of, like Dr. Ballard said, what's going on with my neighbor? Why haven't I seen them? Why haven't I heard from them? So I'm reaching out in ways that I don't normally, because it's not really in my character to be somebody who is reaching out outside of my little circle. So it's humbled me. It's humbled me. And I'm learning to one day at a time, just take it one day at a time. Whatever comes up in that day, that is what I'm taking care of, and that's how I'm going forward. I'm not planning, I'm not making too many changes, just kind of living in the moment and processing.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. I'll tell you what, though, this is why we call this the global town hall, because everybody represents a tribe, a certain group of people, a profession. We're all representing one group or the other, and yet we come together in unity and in unison with one voice, and the voice being mental health is necessary. It's necessary that we begin to look at mental health real now. A lot of times when you have all this pandemic, people are kind of like, woo, where did that come from? How did this happen? Right? So we're going through all this with coronavirus, and yet there's something that is brooding under coronavirus. We're seeing people frustrated. We're seeing people committing suicide. We're seeing children committing suicide. Just 3 days ago, I saw a story on Facebook. A father that was, grieving badly, just lost a 13-year-old. They were laughing. It was like there was no sign. But then there were things that he was saying that I myself could hear the signs, but he could not because it was close. So we're losing kids, we're losing adults, we're losing people beyond coronavirus, we're losing people. And so it is time that we begin to have discussions like this, conversations like this, to begin to wake up and say, hey, yes, coronavirus is here, but there's yet another pandemic behind that. If we're not prepared, this can actually be worse than coronavirus. It can actually be worse. This is why we have created this Live Rehab TV. This is why we're going to continue this conversation. This is where we're going to continue to tape it and send it to all over the world so that people can begin to take action. Just like Eric said, take action, right? He saw the trajectory. Back then, it was up here. 1918, it was here, there. But sadly, in mental health, it's not like that. Mental health has been like this. Mental health didn't go like this. It went like this when people were not telling, they were going through it, right? And it's like, if you're going through it, it really didn't happen. If you see it, that's not what you saw. If you heard of it, forget you heard it. And so you have that situation. So now you have millennials and Gen Z saying, well, I'm feeling something, but I don't know what it is. And, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And so we in mental health is going up like this. And if we are not careful, our children are not prepared for what is about to hit in that arena. And so we adults, it is important that we start having conversations. People like us need to continue to have conversations so that our children, generations before or behind us, whatever we want to call it, can begin to hear a lot about mental health and mental wellness and begin to prepare their minds and begin to take care of themselves. There's too many people that we're losing, just way too many people. So I want to thank you all for even sharing and just taking your time to come here to even share not just your knowledge, but share your personal experiences with coronavirus, to share your personal experiences where your businesses are concerned, where your children are concerned. It is time that we continue this conversation. So I want us to go around and just, if there is anything, if there's one message that you want somebody today that might be listening right now, that you want them to know? One message. Miss Florida, what would your message be?
You know, one of the things that we did as a family, because we have families all over the United States, was, you know, understanding that some people live by themselves, and understanding that some people are very social butterflies, right? And so the ones who are social butterflies are struggling, and the ones who are living by themselves are struggling. So one of the things that we did, and maybe this helped other people, is that we have a family reunion every week, and we have it here in a Zoom type of session. So everybody knows, you know, Sundays, 7 o'clock, we changed it now to 6. We're all jumping in, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people get to see each other, and they look forward to that time so they don't feel so isolated. And so I felt that was important because I have several family members, like my mom, that suffer from depression. And so my mother's assignment was that she had to send me a joke every single day. And I said, as long as she's laughing, we're good. You know, it's like, we're golden, you know. So just engaging our families, and even, and then just being more patient than we normally are with our kids. Because I could be very driven and very focused, and my son is not like me. He's just the happy-go-lucky, you know, kind of kid. And so I had to be patient and just, you know, say, okay, he's not doing certain things, but let me give him the space to make sure that it was okay that he didn't get this done, that it wasn't the end of the world, that he didn't finish this. And as long as he's communicating, as long as he's moving, he's not stuck in his room in the dark, not speaking to anybody, that was healthy. And to just assure him that, you know what, okay, we missed it here. It's not the end of the world. We'll try it again tomorrow. That helps. It just takes away the burden off of him. As to, oh my God, I didn't perform. This is the end of the world because I'm so stressed out that I'm stuck in this house, you know? So, I mean, that's what I would say, is just to be easier on our kids and our family members, be more understanding and more compassionate, and that people are not going to get it. And sometimes people are going to, you know, flip off, and you're going to be like, you know what? It's okay. I know you didn't mean it. You know, you're being a jerk, but I love you anyway, you know, and just let it slide, because everybody copes with it a little bit differently. So, you know, that's what I would share, that, you know, this is going to pass, but when dealing with each other, seek to understand the other person more so. Don't judge them based on your frame of reference. Just try to understand them, and just care enough to just, hey, okay, let's talk about it. And we're in this together, and assure them that we're going to go through this together. That, I would say, that's the one thing that would tell them.
Thank you so much. Miss Wendy?
I'm going to take it first from a cultural standpoint, is that I want people to be mindful that, you know, everyone doesn't live the way you live. People don't think the way that you think. They have different core values, religious, you know, beliefs and backgrounds, and just to be considerate of that when we're actually going through this pandemic, because what I might feel in my Western ways is totally different than what somebody else might feel in a different culture, and just to respect that. And then the second thing would be also just to control what you can control. You know, that's it. We can only control but so much. We, you know, just stay within the moment. And number three is probably the most important, is to make sure that if you are feeling depressed, if you are feeling that you have suicidal thoughts, it's okay to get help. It's okay to child. And the beauty that we have today is that we have people that can actually connect with us, you know, through video. And you don't have to go anywhere to do so. And so therefore you don't have to worry about somebody seeing you or being judged. And so definitely making sure that you seek help if you need that.
Thank you so much. Eric?
I think the first thing that came to mind with the prompt of what I would want to express to people is that you aren't alone. No matter how many people are physically near you, you're not alone in what you're experiencing. It might not be the same, but other people are going through it. You're not alone in the way that you're feeling about how all these things are affecting your life and others and the future and the possibilities and the unknown. And even if you get sick and you have to go to the hospital, you're not going to be alone, because we'll be there for you.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome. Erica?
Absolutely agree, Eric. You're not alone. One of the things that I guess I would love to share is just remembering that thought and really take the opportunity to embrace community, right? Allow others to support you the way that you need to be supported. You know, there's times, some days where I just want to see somebody, right? You know, I get to see my three little people every day, hey, every single day. But sometimes I want to see an adult person, right? So I pick up my phone and I go, you know, I'm looking through my list of girlfriends and I'm like, I'm gonna just hit FaceTime on this one. Okay, if she doesn't pick up, I'm gonna call the other one. Somebody's gonna be, you know, somebody's gonna pick up. It's just the fact that I just want to see someone. And so be okay with embracing community, you know, during this time, and allowing others to support you, and really getting the support that you need, you know, to be able to thrive, you know, during these times of crisis, and also look for the opportunity in everything that we're, you know, that we're challenged with today. I think crisis is a perfect opportunity where innovation begins to peek its head and creativity begins to, you know, to peek out from underneath the shadows as well. Because when that pressure is on you, you begin to think differently. Where things may have been blocked and somehow you couldn't get, you know, an idea through, all of a sudden now, you know, things become open because now you found a new path. And so embrace community, but also embrace the opportunity that is now laid before you. It's not the time for you to relent and to give up, but it's now the opportunity, you know, maybe one of your visions, like Florida was talking about, you know, the disruption has caused you to now accelerate, right? So just be mindful that, you know, this could actually be your perfect storm, the perfect storm of you coming out, being promoted and being someone different than what you went into it as. And so that's what I would share.
Awesome. So, Dr. Ballard.
Yeah, I want to echo what everyone else is saying. You're not alone, and it's not uncommon during times of uncertainty and crisis to experience feelings like sadness or loneliness or grief or anxiety. Those are normal to feel, and there is help. We have 24/7 help, 1-800-273-TALK. That is a suicide hotline, 1-800-273-TALK. So I want to encourage you, if you are experiencing any turmoil, reach out. You can also, you know, reach out for, you know, to get connected to a counselor. You know, we're here. We have more access now with telemed, telehealth. I also want to encourage people, limit the time that you're spending watching the news. That is very anxiety provoking. Stay active, take a walk, do some exercise, connect with loved ones. Even though this is difficult, we can get through this. And even though it seems very challenging and tough right now, it will not always be this way. Anything that comes up is gonna come down, you know. And so just continue to reach out and get connected.
Thank you. Dr. Rossler.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ballard. I just want to piggyback on what everybody's saying. It's you know, you're not alone, and ask for the help that you need. The help is available, and we are all there. We're all here, and we're here to serve you. So ask.
Thank you so much. Now I do have some questions down here. Let me see now. I think before we wrap up, let's look at some questions. Leslie says, how do we deal with those of us that do not believe that this is real and people are really suffering? Eric, do you want to take that? Because you have like a first hand. Where is COVID-19 real or is it just fake? Eric?
Well, I don't think you need me to say. Even if you and no one you know is directly affected with the illness, you don't have to look far to see the real effect that it has on everything else. And so, yeah.
Anybody has anything to say about that? Is it real? What do you say to somebody who says, "Oh, this is just fake"? You know, people are just trying to route us up for some. What do you say to somebody who says it's fake?
I mean, I can understand the delicate balance of this health and safety of the majority of the folks that would be susceptible, and the security, wellness, and emotional and stability of all the other folks that have had their lives completely turned upside down. And it is just that, it's a balance, and hopefully we are not too far off from doing the right thing. I don't run countries, and I don't run the CDC. I can't make that call. But it is a very devastating illness if somebody that is susceptible gets it, and it has created very devastating circumstances outside of illness with commercial and economic and just overall mental anguish. So whether it's real or not, it's having real effects.
Ooh, I like that. Say that again. Whether it's real or not.
If it's real or not, quote unquote, it's still producing real effects.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, somebody said, that there is a large part of the population that does not believe in this. And because of that, they'll really like us to come back and tackle that. So I'm going to put that under advisement. Thank you so much. Any other questions, y'all? Any other questions? What kind of questions as we wrap up? Yes, Dr. Ballard.
Yeah, you know what? The thing that I've seen during this, I don't care if you think it's real or not real. A house divided is not going to stand. And we've seen that division here, If a law comes out or there are some guidelines that are put out, respect it. If not, if you don't think it's real, but your neighbor thinks it's real and they're having extreme anxiety because of the things that you're doing, then just respect that. Whether you think it or not, if it's someone else's truth, then go with it. I just think that's part of being respectful.
That's right.
Or consideration.
That's right.
Now, Dr. Princess, I kind of took the question, if we can just look at the question from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I took it as, what if it's not, this COVID, this flu-like illness that's really impacting people? Could it be something else, right? So that's kind of how I heard the question. From the standpoint is, what if it's not a flu-like illness that's actually taking place? What if it's a government cover up, like maybe are people getting poisoned from radiation, right? Are we seeing the same things that happen, during, the same time of the Spanish flu, where there was also, a huge introduction of radiation? And so that's kind of what I heard from that particular question.
Wow. Isn't that amazing that a sentence is heard, but the way that we hear it, everybody has their own interpretation of that, because I never even thought of it that way at all. I never even thought of it that way. So let me make sure before we wrap up. Now, I want us to go one by one and tell the people what are you doing now, where your business is concerned, because I also want them to know a little bit about you. So what is it that you're doing now? What would you like people to know? I know that Eric is working on a project. And I think that each and every one of us were working on a project. So let's start with Erica. What is your project? What is your baby right now that you would like to share with the world?
So one of the things that COVID has done for me has definitely, as I was talking earlier, caused me to go back and look at the visions that I've had. And now it has actually created the right timing and environment for me to really begin to manifest with those visions. And so for me, recently, I've created 2 companies. And with one of them, I'm focusing on a project which I'll be launching the project here pretty soon, but I've focused on a project that I've called the Reset Wellness Corner. And really it is a virtual safe space for women to come in, the women who are, high potential women who are extremely influential. It's that place for them to come to take off their capes and take off their superpowers and really be nurtured. And so we're really dealing in the space of helping women to be whole so that they can heal. Helping women be whole so that they can lead from a place of that wholeness. And so we're dealing with emotional wellness, we're dealing with mental wellness, but we're also dealing with financial wellness. And so that's something that I'm launching here pretty soon, and it's called the Reset Wellness Corner.
And if they need information, they'll go to Erica T. Johnson.
Yeah, so for right now, yeah, definitely go to ericatjohnson.com. You can sign up for my my email list. That it's something that's there now, and you'll be able to get notification once the doors are officially open to this wellness corner.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Ballard.
Thank you again so much for having me. Right now, all of my work has been done using telehealth, and we also have Let's Talk. It's an opportunity. It's free for students, middle schoolers, and high schoolers to talk about whatever's concerning them, whatever's on their heart. It's a no judgment zone, and it's there to create support. During the summer, we're also going to launch one for parents as well, because people need just an outlet, a safe place to talk, to get some resources, some extra support strategies. And so these are some programs that are funded, and so they're free, to people who need them.
Thank you. Miss Wendy?
Well, my first baby is his PhD, okay? That's the first baby that we're trying to get through right now, okay? Is his PhD. But also lots of speaking. I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements. Also some cross-cultural training and consulting, collaborating and working and supporting Africa is my big project that I've been working on right now. And whenever I'm able to fly again, I will be going back to Dubai. I have some projects there that were supposed to happen in March that's been happening online. And so I will continue to support businesses in Dubai, as well as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait at this moment, working with them on some mental health initiatives as well. And so I can be reached at inspiring-decisions.com. And Dr. Princess FUMI, thank you so much, as always, for having me on this platform. This was amazing, and I look forward to hearing more and continuing to support.
Thank you. Thank you. Eric? Oh, Eric? Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, sorry, a little delay there. Well, this is turning out to be one of the busiest times of my life. Thankfully, not much else is going on. So, baby's coming. The Johnson & Johnson Innovation Fellowship, always great to be staying in touch with those folks. I'm working on a new site called nursehack.com. I'd mentioned it before, but if you have any nurses or any clinicians in your circles, tell them to head over there. I'm looking to build a repository of the little tips and tricks that you don't read in the textbooks, but the things that really make and break your shift or make and break a good quality provider, the things that you learn from orientation with a very seasoned clinician, and we're sharing them back to the visitors as well, so that you may find some stuff that you can put into practice. I've tried to focus on COVID patient care, ways to make it safer, preserve the PPE, reduce exposures, that sort of thing. So I've been working pretty diligently on that, and that kind of spun off of covigilance that world would be a platform dedicated to frontline clinicians as a way that they can share the most useful data for their bedside practice, as opposed to all the stuff that's just in the noise of the news. So working on both of those. And then I also just recently was accepted into a master's program for innovation and entrepreneurship in the biomedical and engineering department at UNC Chapel Hill and NC State.
So, okay. All right, Eric. So I'm reading and I saw biochemical, bioengineering. I said, what is he doing there?
So I learned about what biomedical engineering was after I had gotten into nursing school. And biomedical engineering is the field of all of the people who design and produce medical equipment. And so the beds, the stethoscopes, the IV pumps, all the stuff that you use at home, ventilators, respiratory stuff, a lot of it goes into the pharma industry. And so I had no idea that existed. And so I met some folks in the dining hall and they're like, yeah, we're in biomedical engineering department. I was like, I'd never heard of that. They told me what it is. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. But I'd just gone to nursing school. So I was like, all right, I've worked so hard to bust my butt to get accepted. So let me do nursing. And while I'm there, I'm going to look for opportunities at the bedside, other clinicians, patients, families. Like, I know that this exists. So what things can I find that are broken and eventually circle back, go into BME, somehow work with this industry and make things that make life better. And so I found the way to circle back. Hopefully this will prove to be fruitful, and hopefully I can make it through all of these things at the same time together. I figure if not now, then never, and it's got to happen. So I'm going to do it.
Well, I'm glad to have met you now, so that when you become, up there, I could say, yeah, I know him.
Well, I appreciate it. That's kind of you.
But I tell you though, you use some words there that Wendy always used those words, looking for opportunity. Wendy cross-cultural. She's the one always looking for opportunities. She said, don't leave money on the table. That's what you're doing. You're not leaving money on the table, because all the ideas that you have by that bedside, guess what? You're going to implement them.
I'm going to have to get on your LinkedIn here in a minute, buddy. God. Dr. Princess, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been a blast and great to connect with all of you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, Dr. Russell.
Yeah, so prior to COVID, I was working on scaling down my practice, and post-COVID, I just don't see that happening. But I really see myself doing some kind of research on how all of this has affected patients, because we were not prepared really for the coming of this COVID pandemic. And I think that we need some research on how we can better prepare and prepare patients. And so that's what I see myself doing in the future. I thought, I was going to be able to scale down. Didn't happen. But I'm okay, though. I'm taking care of myself, so that's important. And I do really, truly want to do some research on how all of this has affected patients.
Wow. Thank you. Where's Florida? Yeah. I don't think I got you.
Oh, no, you didn't. But that's okay. I was having fun listening to everybody. It was great. And I love Eric. I love everybody here, but I love his energy. He's absolutely awesome. So first of all, Princess, thank you so very much for having this, for making this available, and for including me. I'm really, truly honored to be in their company and be part of this. Like Eric, you have to look for the opportunities. Whenever you're doing something that you're passionate about and you're serving, you say, okay, where else can I serve? And so, yes, it may be opportunities, but it's really an opportunity to serve. And by serving, the money will come. All right. So, but the focus has to be on service. And so if I could just share, if you don't mind, Dr. Princess Hancock, uh, for those folks in real estate, because it's the impact on the real estate market is where employers are beginning to realize that people can work from home. So do they need these buildings? Okay, so
Yep.
it's scary to them because they may have these large mortgages or these high, large rents to pay on these buildings, that they're now realizing that, hey, this person works really well independently at home. So I don't need to have as many people working under this roof. But what do I do with this building? And that's where the opportunity is. How do you pivot? Okay. And so right now, mental health is a need. It's a need that all communities need. Can you convert that building into a mental health clinic? Okay, that's a better use of that building. You're serving the community, and it's generating a decent revenue for you. So now it's not going empty, and now you can have your employees out. I mean, there's different ways to change and pivot and utilize these opportunities that are inherent. I'm a geek. I'm the biggest nerd. So I'm the person that went ahead and downloaded, the new stimulus, proposal that was passed by the House. It's 1,800 pages, right? I downloaded today.
Oh,
And of course, I was reading it today because I think that's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's good to hear. But the only thing that you hear on the news, and that's why I don't pay attention to the news, is all the negative stuff and all the stuff that they're giving away. But there's also opportunity in there. And so I want to encourage those in the real estate market to look at the opportunities to serve that have been made available through that stimulus package. Because if it does pass, which I really don't believe it should pass, but that's a different conversation. But should it pass, there's opportunities there for you to serve in a significant way that it's not activity, that's impact. That's going to impact the community. That's going to impact people to move to the next level of healing and getting back on their feet. And so that's what I want to encourage them to, like, dig into that document. It's there. And it's always opportunity, even in chaos.
so how can they reach you if they need a class in real estate? How can they reach you?
I'm not giving my classes right now, right? So it's a busy time for all of us. For all of us. I mean, we're focusing on, taking advantage of the opportunities for us to serve. But in order for them to reach me, they could go to realestateinvestingsupport.net, not .com, but .net. And there is all my information and what have you. If they want something, I think that was the easiest way for them to reach me is to go to realestateinvestingsupport.net.
Awesome. Well, in my situation, I just launched 2 clinics in Arizona. Many of you know that I relocated because of this plan from Nashville, Tennessee. Not quite reluctantly, but but I did. And so now, Pool of Bethesda Psychiatric Health. We have 2 clinics right now in Arizona. So we're grateful for God for helping us that. And then tonight, we launch a cartoon. We call it, well, you know how you have cartoon. So in my case, it's a cartoon characters. And these characters, I launched it with a partner who is an animator. And tonight we're launching the website. It's called myrehablifestyle.com, where you have these characters coming to teach about mental health. Let me quickly share it here. Let's see. Hopefully I can share it. Let's see. And this is the website here. And these are cartoon characters that will be talking about mental wellness. So these are the characters. We call them the Mavericks. And of course, we have a trauma care maestro. We call them the maestro. And we have each characters that will be talking about different topics. One of it is anxiety, panic, post-traumatic stress, depression, because these are the 4 major things that I'm seeing in my clinic over and over and over again. And with the clinic, I've actually implemented rehabilitative writing, where all of my patients come in with their journal and we write and we talk about their life stories. And so this is what we're launching. We kind of launch it tonight. And so please feel free to go there. It's called My Rehab, myrehablifestyle.com. This is where we live, we laugh, we love, we entertain, and of course, we educate. It's where recovery and wellness flow. So this is a digital global town hall that we're launching right now. And what we're doing right now is a part of it. It's a part of it. The Life Rehab, you see the Life Rehab TV is a part of it, because some of the topics here that we have right now is going to be discussed right there, because it's just too much. There's a lot of information there, but it's powerful when we have unique information that is coming from practitioners like ourselves, and we're lending from our own experiences. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. On behalf of myself, of course, and of course the team at Life Rehab TV and my rehablifestyle.com, we thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Until next time, be inspired, be motivated, be of sentimental value. Understand that you are the hero in your life story. Do not dare to let anybody write your story, because you are a master storyteller. Thank you so much for us. Bye-bye now.